Let's move on to GAA, because here's Jim Gavin chatting to a bunch of people, including our Owen, on Saturday night in Tralee, responding to the story regarding the future of Jason Sherlock and Diarmuid Connolly that appeared in the Irish Mirror.
Why journalists, or I suppose how they report on conjecture, on rumour, that's up to you. That's your profession, not mine. So I can't comment on that.
But he wasn't gone from the management
Not
team
at least, no, not the slightest.
So you've no problem with the documentary?
I thought it was an excellent documentary. If you haven't seen it, I'd highly recommend it. Jason was very brave to do what he did, and we're very proud of him. And if you can watch that documentary without getting emotional, well, then you've got a heart of stone. So it's well worth viewing.
And that Diarmuid Connolly story mentioned he's in training with Brian Cullen, which of course could mean he's going back with the hurlers either. So we won't get too carried away that he's back in with the footballers, but you can't confirm that tonight.
Well, I can confirm that is certainly not the case.
That he's not training with Brian Cullen?
Absolutely not.
Right.
Jim, I understand Diarmuid played a challenge match for instance against Ballyboden this morning. Now, I know you were asked 2 weeks ago, but I suppose there had been talk whether he was going to be back with this club or not.
Questions are just about tonight's game, okay?
Okay.
I was obviously, we were away travelling all day for this game, so if any player wants to volunteer their time for county football, we'll always look at them, and the door has always remained open for any player who's either been with us in the past or who wants to join us, who hasn't been in there, who hasn't been on the squad yet. And I think you saw a couple of players there tonight putting their hand up for a jersey, and we'll continue to look at Sigerson in the coming weeks and club games next weekend to see who we can bring in.
Well, that was the fastest storm in a teacup that ever happened in the GAA world. On Friday, according to the Mirror, J.A. was gone, and then on Saturday night he's on the bus all the way down to Tralee, and there you go. And it's great that he is back, because obviously he's had a role to play and will have a role to play into the future. And we certainly bought that story on Friday and ran with it, and shouldn't have, it turns out.
Yeah, definitely shouldn't have. He's definitely there. He's sitting right in front of me for a lot of the game, sitting beside Keane O'Sullivan, who's rocking one of the best moustaches I've ever seen.
Oh yeah.
Spoiler alert when he gets back on the pitch. He's up in the stands, so I'm sure we'll see him out on the pitch as a runner again in the next couple of weeks.
The Connolly stuff, doesn't look like... I'd be surprised if Connolly plays Gaelic football for Dublin this year at this stage.
Yeah, I think given the preparation, what they've done up to now, that's the thing. If we're judging it on previous seasons, then that will be difficult. How did he look when he was back for Vincent? Do we know that?
Don't know. I didn't hear. I think
played Saturday in a challenge match, wasn't it?
Yeah, he'd been training with the club, was what I'd heard, and so look, maybe his form is astounding, and he clearly is an amazing athlete. So he probably could get back to intercounty.
I'd love to see him, but I think we all would. You want to see the best players. He is phenomenal, isn't he? Phenomenal talent.
No Cluxton in goals. How did they get on with their kick-out strategy?
Well, I thought when Kerry pressurised the corner backs when Comerford went short, Dublin looked in a bit of trouble quite often. Now the thing is, it wasn't exactly man-to-man that Dublin always had an extra man somewhere in their full back line, so they did have an outlet to go with it. It was when they actually gathered the initial possession that Kerry pushed up on them quite hard, and then they were under a bit of pressure, which is sort of the middle ground. Sometimes you kind of take nuance out of the equation when you talk about Stephen Cluxton's kickouts. You either push up or you sit back. And if you sit back, you're not pressing up on the kick-out, and if you push up, you are pressing up on the kick-out. There is a middle ground here where you can maybe drop a body or two off and still press up once Dublin have the ball in the hand. Once you know which wing he's gone to, and you can concentrate a couple of bodies onto that side. And they made a couple of turnovers like that. I thought it was very, very effective. And if Stephen Cluxton was in goals for Dublin, a lot of the same kickouts would have happened. The thing is, though, Cluxton just brings an extra element of quality with the mid-range kickouts. So Comerford went long a couple of times successfully, went short a couple of times successfully, but it is that mid-range kickout, isn't it? When Johnny Cooper's going out around the 40, kind of peeling back, and then there's kind of like your basketball-style screening moves almost. That's when Cluxton really hits his man right in the chest, right on the sponsor, and that's what sets him apart from the rest. There is also, like, what is he doing in terms of calling those moves as well? Is the movement of the defenders different when Cluxton is in goals? I think more analysis is required of that over the next couple of weeks. You've also got to remember as well that Ciarán Kilkenny, his movements and his ability to win possession and actually start attacks from inside Dublin's own half quite often is pivotal as well. He's only come back from New Zealand over the past couple of days, really, over the last week and a half maybe. So he's a humongous addition to the team. That really, it was Brian Fenton and James McCarthy who were keeping the team ticking over on Saturday night. But Kilkenny's ability to be the pace setter is quite different to those two.
Okay, so you're not quite getting carried away, and yet you're getting totally carried away. It's
Well,
the perfect league scenario for Kerry.
But like, what is getting carried away here?
You believe they could be competitive in Croke Park in August
But like,
against Dublin?
like the idea that Kerry are back, I'm not like, where exactly did they go? Like
Well, they didn't reach an All-Ireland semi-final last year. That's where they went.
That happened because of a massive underperformance against Galway in Croke Park last year. And I really think that suddenly the whole narrative changed around that team because of one massive underperformance on a crap day against a team that are so bloody annoying to play against. And to be fair, Kerry should have been better. If they really were up to Dublin standard, they would have beaten Galway that day. I'm not questioning that, but we still have to accept the fact that it was a massive underperformance from Kerry on that occasion. And that is what has dictated the narrative. Like, go back to 2 seasons ago, they drew with Dublin at home, they beat them in the league final. Like, they haven't played Dublin in a championship match since 2016. I think Kerry and Mayo just have an extra gear to go to when they come up against those blue shirts. And I'm sticking to that
Like
take.
Man City,
Like what we saw yesterday between Galway and Monaghan proves that half the reason why last year was so bad in the All-Ireland series was because of the opposition to Dublin. Like, no, it's true. It is really true. If Kerry and Mayo were in the last 4 mix, we might have had a much more entertaining and competitive
totally. I think everybody believes
year.
that, really.
But no, I'm sure there's people out there who are like, oh, Galway beat Kerry, therefore Galway are a better team than Kerry. Nonsense. Absolute and utter nonsense.
Well, they matched up well against them.
They matched up well against, but I'm talking about when I'm saying being a better team than Kerry in terms of challenging Dublin, in terms of stopping the 5 in a row.
But I don't think last year's Kerry team were going to. I don't think that they were going to get within 5 to 7 points because they didn't show any signs of it throughout the year that they were building to something, to a single one-off performance against the Dubs.
Mayo did pretty much the same thing the previous year, showing zero signs. Almost got knocked out by Fermanagh, almost got knocked out by Roscommon, and then kind of came up on the big day. And like, that sort of stuff does happen.
It does
in championship football, the way the structure is.
Yeah. I mean, but you're like. You're banking on an amazing one-off performance as opposed to... So what I'm saying here is that there are the green shoots of a Kerry side building something, doing different things, getting Tommy Walsh back on. They went very direct early on. They scored 1-1 off that. Like, they're mixing stuff up in a way that looks like they're analysing... And not that the previous Kerry teams weren't, but like there's been an infusion of new blood, and it just... Change happens and it brings different things.
For sure. I think they're in a better place to not get caught cold this summer like they did last year. I definitely think that they're going to be harder to beat. How much the gap is closed between them and Dublin, I think very much remains to be seen. Like, I think you add in any of Dublin's missing players, any of them, like in terms of the big 3 that they're missing, Cluxton, Kilkenny or O'Sullivan, and Dublin draw or win the game. Like that's the 1 or 2 point swing that they needed. You add in 2 of them, like Philly McMahon as well. Let's not forget the sort of edge he might have brought to the game as well when required. Then they probably win the game by a couple of points.
Who are Kerry missing?
Well, Kerry are missing David Clifford, who is going to come back and probably have a sublime season. I still, maybe it's my heart ruling my head, but I still have hopes for James Donoghue to come back. There is also like the question
David
of some
Moore
other players.
From the start.
Say that again?
David Moore from the start.
From the start as well. But there is also the question of a couple of players that have yet to really come into the national consciousness. Like Gavin White was sublime for Kerry last year, was an all-star nominee. He's in with Crokes. Crokes' goalkeeper, Shane Murphy, is probably still the number 1 for Kerry. Kevin McCarthy, who's been out of action for Kerry for a while, played for his club Kilcummin in an intermediate final in Croke Park on Saturday. He scored 3-7. All from play as an inside forward. Kerry have never really tried him as an inside forward. Might be worth an experiment at some point this season. And of course, the other wunderkind from Kerry, David Shaw, with Dr. Crokes, who's out of action at the moment. The problem is being a kid and trying to work your way in after the league is a bit of a tough ask. But he is an unbelievably talented player. And of course, they're getting better as well. But I think they're 80% of where they're at.
I think
Dublin are 60.
it is a difficulty when we're judging the league. And we know full well it is meaningless once we come towards the summertime. We know that. But what do you do as a coach, as a manager? New managers at Mayo and Kerry, and you've got to just get your side right, haven't you? Get them playing to a structure, to a way that you want them to be hit in the summer in that sort of style of football. That's the way that it is, and I think there are real good signs. I think across the board
I do too,
that we're going to see a better championship this year. That's the way that I would see it. Yeah,
it's mad how quickly there's been an impact in Kerry and Mayo. The only difficulty is that some of these players can look great now when the ground is heavy and the ball is travelling a little bit slower. In May, when the weather starts to get a bit better, in June and July when it gets good, and then in August, are they the same players?
I think they've both got good running games as well, though, haven't they? That's the thing. They're both powerful sides. The way I'd look at it. So I think in general, I think they'll improve. I think they'll get better with the better weather.
You're pretty excited about Mayo, though.
No, I think.
Come on, the 2 years are getting carried away.
Oh, the lads, we had Joe. Joe was taking the piss out of me. No, I'm not. The reason what it is, I think the constant criticism of Mayo over the last few years is there's no talent coming through. Now, clearly we can see whatever James Horan has done with the team up there, that there are several talented youngsters that are going to push the mainstay of that side that's been there for such a long time. There's been no Colin Boyle across the stage. No, Kevin McGotten's had a few minutes coming off the bench. Seamus O'Shea. So there's several players, I think, and Cillian O'Connor, of course, who's been, you know, our main point scorer over the last 6-7 years now, whatever it is. So I think those players out, and it needs must that we've had to maybe introduce one or two of the younger players that's come into the side, and they've performed well. But I'm not saying that they're going to be the answer going further forward, but it's certainly giving James Horan great options to the summertime when everything's going to take shape, that there are several really good options now, rather than actually looking for, say, we've got Conor Loftus coming off the bench. Conor Loftus not even been involved yet. So there's been limited options coming off the bench and making a huge impact on the side. I think that's the hope that Mayo, we know.
Did either of you feel this way 12 months ago?
No, I didn't. I didn't actually. And off the back of the All-Ireland in 2017, going into last year, there was a bit of a doom and gloom. I was up at the Monaghan game for the first game of the season. I was at the Galway game in Salthill. And there wasn't that real pace about the side, and understandably so. A bit flat. There was, you know, to lift themselves again, and that, I think that went across the season. And I know Owen touched on it before, that Mayo were probably flat the 27 season across the season. They probably were flat. They were just getting through games, reaching that peak towards the All Ireland final and semis. I think now in general, I think, yes, they're at a level now which is much greater than it was last season, but I think they're going to improve. I do genuinely think they're going to improve. I think they're going to get fitter across the season. I think they are ahead of most sides as it is now, but I think they're going to improve. I think they're going to get better across the season, yeah. Yeah,
for sure. Well, like last year, there was a great new dawn for Kerry because they had Sean O'Shea and David Clifford, and they won their first two games. They went to Castlebarron one day, they'd beaten Donegal on the first day. So there was this sort of sense. So you could get caught out cold twice, but just on uncovering new players, Dublin have also, let's not forget, uncovered a couple of great new players like Darren Gavin, who started for Dublin on Saturday night. I was really impressed with him, and it is often those games.
What type of players are you always playing?
Midfield, big player, backing up the midfield, almost kind of going 3 versus 3 in midfield.
Tommy's purring in my ear about his left foot.
Yeah.
Can't be a good left footer, honestly.
There you go.
You really can't be a good left footer.
Phil McDonough's the one to look out for Mayo this year. Good left footer as well.
Yeah, he's excellent.
All right, so a lot of excitement from everybody, apart from the Dose fans. We'll see how excited the Dose fans are in just a minute, because Darren Cleary's out, so we're going to get to him right now. In the meantime, on yesterday's Sunday pay-per-view, Marie Crowe and Jack Anderson reacted to a very powerful interview with Eamon McGee in the wake of the recent loss of a teammate. Have a look.
Before I read this, I'd read pages and pages of analysis and reports on attendances and finance and ticket prices, and when I read this, I just thought, everything that is really fundamentally important about the GAA is actually in this. That other stuff is just incidental, because what the GAA gives people and what the GAA is reflected in this piece. It's about community, values, support networks, friendships, all those kind of things. And this piece with Eamon McGee was just, it captures all of that, because it just kind of documents what has happened in Gweedore, the death of Micheál Roartree, who was on their team, and he was a friend as well as a teammate. And like the headline of it at the very top, he said, I was his biggest influence. You think, did you make enough of an effort with him when you had that influence? And straight away, you're just thinking about what that community are going through, the effect that's having on everybody up there, a really small place. But as you read it, then you kind of realise that something tragic has happened, but they have the GAA there to support them, and that means an awful lot. But it's just a beautiful piece, because like the easy thing to do is not talk about these things or not talk about these people, and they just become a number, like however number of people have died on the road. But Eamon McGee here, he makes us realise that Royce, as they call him, he's more than a number. He's a friend, he's a person, he's a brother, he's a teammate.
Yeah, that full chat is available on our YouTube channel. It sounds like a great piece. You can obviously dig that out, the original piece, and then the conversation about it as well from the Sunday Times, youtube.com/offtheball. Now, Darren is here. Darren, how are you?
I'm good, Ger, you?
Yeah. A chastening experience for the Dubs on Saturday night?
I was just trying to figure out the last time we've lost, 3 out of 4 games?
2015.
Thanks, Owen.
That was quick.
Certainly lost Cork and Kerry in 2015, back-to-back, I think, early days. So I'm trying to think, if you include, you're obviously including the O'Byrne Cup.
Yeah, that
and
was,
I think they got beaten in 2015 O'Byrne Cup as well. So Yeah.
Nobody can.
They'll be fine. They'll be fine.
It's a crisis, Darren, is it?
Yeah.
Actually, 2015 was the start of the 400 roads, but it's bookended it nicely.
Yeah,
I'm not going to press the panic buttons yet.
They'll be fine.
Yeah, like they're still operating a couple of weeks behind. I think the top teams in Division 1, the extended break did that. Like, it's a good game in that they were so close to Kerry, considering I'd say Kerry are probably not far off where they'd like to be in May and June time, while Dublin are still nearly weeks off.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see.
I don't think Kerry are operating at a pretty high level for this time of year.
Compared to Dublin, they're
Compared
at
to
a way.
Kerry in recent years at this time of year.
Well, as I say, like they won their first 2 games, including a win in Castlebar this time last year. So I'm definitely hesitant to get ahead of things.
I think the new coach effects definitely helps.
Yeah,
the players
it's a bit of a bounce off that as well.
It is. The players are naturally going to be just raised ever so slightly. As crazy as it sounds at times, and players shouldn't necessarily be. But that'll have a factor as well.
They're a lot bigger. They're like a lot of time was spent in the gym over the course of the winter. Like you do wonder though if that kind of winter of bulking up will actually have an effect the next year, because sometimes you're just so worn out by the time the championship actually gets going that perhaps this is really the transition year.
Isn't that the benefit of having all the kids though? That like you can throw them in. That was what he said afterwards. What did you learn tonight? We learned we can throw them in.
Well, that's true. Well, to be fair, one of the kids that was running was David Moran off the bench, so it's not a bad sub to have. But like that is the depth that they're creating. That some of the players that were starting on Saturday night will become the impact players off the bench. Tommy Walsh was another one they threw in as well. Very mixed reaction to him actually talking to people afterwards. Some people say he played poorly. I thought he did very well, and I thought he did really well up in Breffni Park as well the previous week. I think there's a future for him.
James McCarthy had to go back and mark him.
Yeah, the subs were very.
3 points off James McCarthy. Is that what
No. No, James McCarthy kicked 3 points
McCarthy
himself.
had kicked 3 points. Sorry,
Yeah, McCarthy was
first half.
Dublin's best player, I thought, on Saturday night. And like
Player of the year, James McCarthy. 2 years too late, but it's going to happen.
And considering he hasn't been around for a couple of weeks, I thought he did really, really well.
like
Jack McCaffrey coming back as well was a...
This is
ridiculous.
Yeah,
Like,
at least someone's going to kick the ball, keep the ball kicked out to them.
Like McCarthy is just so good to watch. It's like he's just toying with everybody. It's like it's how I imagine, say, an over-eager coach gets involved with a kids' team, where it's like, I just really want to play, and I get involved with this team that are clearly way below my level. That's what James McCarthy looks like when he's playing football.
Hoddle used to do that, didn't he?
Yeah, he just looks like he's not trying at all, and obviously he is, and he was Dublin's best player on Saturday night. It's a blind player. It's actually a great shout, Footballer of the Year.
I still think Dublin won't operate at the level they need to be at until Cluxton's back.
Oh, without question.
Comerford he still looks jittery in a lot of ways, which, he's a young guy, you can't be too surprised by it, but he doesn't bring the stability that Cluxton standing over the tee does, where the players just know it's coming to them. It's an advantage already in that they know his pinpoint accuracy and they can generally read what he's going to do. They have an idea.
And get Dermot Conley back. Get him back in. He's the best footballer I've ever seen. Get him back in.
Best you've ever seen?
Oh, he's unbelievable. He is unbelievable off both feet. I've never seen a player so elegant off both feet. He is incredible.
To be fair, I suppose you did only start watching football a few years ago.
Yeah, that's it, yeah. That's it.
Better than Kieran McDonald?
He was.
Well, I just think I've never. I would have been coming in and out of a lot of games when I was playing. I didn't see a lot of games while I was playing myself, missing games here and there when I was actually involved in games myself. But having
I've watched a lot of football over a number of years, but I just think I've never seen a player control a game like he can.
Yeah, it's probably the best player of this decade.
Jim's little swipe at the media kind of annoyed me. That kind of bothered me when he said about I don't know what way you do your job, but I deal in facts. I thought that was a little bit rich, considering that everyone went to ground for 3 days and no one in the Dublin County Board decided they would course correct this or try and fix it, which leads me to believe, maybe it's a conspiracy theory, that there was something in the idea that Sherlock was gone.
No, I don't think there was.
You don't think so?
I don't think there was at any stage. I think so. We did a bit of work on it a couple of weeks back and found out at that stage that this happens every year, that various coaches come back at different times, because, as they say, it's such an unbelievable commitment that is requested for everybody who's involved in that backroom team. Like, we're talking about endless training sessions, endless one-to-ones with a massive extended panel, and then the fringe players in the panel who are next year's young players coming through. And I don't think there was ever any hint of anything beyond he took a couple of weeks off and that was it, because they're so busy. So that was what we had heard at the time, and we're, I have to say, pretty shocked on Friday to read the story. And then when you go back and look at the story, there were no on the record comments in it. So I think that's what Jim Gavin was saying. It was like, if there is someone on the record saying, yeah, this is what happened, it's the end of the road, we parted ways, like, then, you know, like, where did the story come from? That whole notion of there being no smoke without fire, I don't think holds any water in this case.
The whole thing is bizarre, though. I tried to talk to Sean Shanley on Friday, and he would usually be pretty good with contact. If you ever had a question for me, he would answer, and they just didn't want to cooperate. They didn't answer their phone. I tried him. I tried the Dublin media manager. No answer. No return calls. No return texts. I didn't even bother with the PRO at that stage because it was clear that they were going to ground and had nothing to say.
And that's a pity. I think they definitely need to be a bit more proactive when it comes to that kind of stuff. So I think there's probably a lesson for them to learn in that too. Like they can just. They don't need to be making everything be completely closed off, but certainly, there aren't enough professional PROs around the country who you can just ring and go, this is your full-time job, you have to tell us what the answer is. Or there's no kind of sharing of information which would perhaps lead to an end to this kind of speculation, which was completely off the mark in this case.
On the pitch, a Johnny Heaney goal was key for Galway. They ran out 1-9 to 11 winners over Monaghan goalkeeper Niall Morgan. The hero for Tyrone as they came back from 7 down to secure their first draw in Division 1 of the Alliance Football League. Roscommon had the breeze of their back in the opening half and went into the break with a 6-point lead, 10-4. It finished Tyrone 110, Roscommon 110, so a goal in the second half, their only score to show. In Division 2, Clare took the 2 precious points on offer. They defeated by 3-13 to 110 in Ennis. Tipperary surprise win over Donegal. Among the standout results of Sunday's Alliance League action, Liam Casey got a goal that proved to be very important. They edged that by 3-9 to 13 points. Meath survived a scare to defeat Armagh 2-13 to 13 points.